A cold morning wrapped the billionaire mansion in silence as employees arrived for work, unaware their boss was about to test the truth of their loyalty. Inside the grand office, the powerful billionaire lay motionless on the floor, his expensive suit dusty, eyes closed as if life had quietly left him. Hidden cameras recorded every corner of the room because today he wanted to see who truly cared and who only respected his money. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start. Minutes later, the first employee entered, froze for a second, then quietly backed away, whispering nervously that this problem could ruin everyone. Another worker rushed in after hearing rumors, but instead of helping, he quickly checked the billionaire's watch and expensive phone. Fear spread through the office halls as workers gathered outside, debating whether calling help would drag them into police trouble. Some suggested leaving quietly and pretending they had seen nothing, worried more about their jobs than the man lying still. Behind his closed eyelids, the billionaire listened carefully, heart heavy as each voice revealed what money had truly bought him. The mansion that once felt like a palace now echoed with selfish whispers, each sentence cutting deeper than any betrayal. Then soft footsteps approached from the hallway, slow and careful, belonging to someone who had never been noticed in this house. It was the old maid, carrying her cleaning bucket, unaware that the moment she stepped inside would change the billionaire forever. The old maid stepped quietly into the office, her eyes widening when she saw the billionaire lying motionless on the cold marble floor. For a moment she froze in shock, her cleaning bucket slipping from her hands as water slowly spread across the polished floor. Unlike the others, she did not look at his watch, his phone, or the expensive room around her, only at the man who needed help. Her hands trembled as she rushed beside him, gently touching his shoulder and calling his name with real fear in her voice. Outside the door, several employees watched nervously, whispering that touching him could bring police trouble. One man even warned her to stay away, saying rich people's problems always destroy the lives of poor workers. But the maid ignored them completely, her focus locked on the man lying helpless before her. She placed her ear close to his chest, trying to hear even the faintest heartbeat through the silence. Tears began forming in her tired eyes as she whispered softly that no human should be left alone like this. The billionaire, still pretending to be unconscious, felt something he had not felt in years: genuine concern. For the first time that morning, someone treated him like a human being instead of a powerful employer. And what the maid decided to do next would soon shake every person watching that room. The maid quickly wiped her tears and looked around the office, realizing every second mattered if the man on the floor was still alive. She shouted toward the hallway, begging someone to call an ambulance, but the employees outside hesitated in fearful silence. One worker nervously said the police might blame them if the billionaire died before help arrived. Another whispered they should wait for the company lawyer before touching anything in the room. The maid stared at them in disbelief, unable to understand how fear had become stronger than simple humanity. Without wasting another second, she knelt beside the billionaire and carefully lifted his head from the cold marble floor. Her voice trembled as she spoke softly to him, promising he would not be alone no matter what happened next. She removed her small scarf and placed it gently under his head to make him more comfortable. The hidden cameras recorded every moment as the billionaire listened silently beneath closed eyelids. For years, he had trusted these employees with millions of dollars and powerful responsibilities. Yet the only person trying to save his life was the quiet woman who cleaned their offices every day. Outside the door, footsteps suddenly rushed down the hallway, bringing a moment that would soon change everything. The rushing footsteps grew louder in the hallway as more employees gathered, curiosity stronger than their courage to help. Some stood near the door, filming quietly with their phones, already thinking about the shocking story this could become. The maid looked up at them with desperate eyes, begging again for someone to call an ambulance immediately. A young worker finally dialed emergency services, his hands shaking as he explained the billionaire was lying unconscious. Meanwhile, the maid stayed beside him, holding his wrist gently and whispering prayers under her breath. She spoke to him like a mother, comforting a frightened child, promising that help was coming soon. Inside his silent mind, the billionaire felt a heavy wave of guilt rising with every caring word she spoke. All his life he believed loyalty came from high salaries and powerful positions inside his company. But today, the truth was lying beside him on the floor, wearing a simple cleaning uniform and yellow gloves. The employees outside continued whispering nervously about police questions, lawyers, and protecting themselves. The maid ignored every selfish voice, focused only on keeping the man alive until help arrived. What none of them realized was that the next moment would expose a truth that would shake the entire company. The maid kept holding the billionaire's hand, whispering softly that he must stay strong because help was coming, even if nobody else cared enough to try. Outside the office door, nervous employees continued whispering about lawyers, police reports, and protecting their own jobs first. One man quietly told others they should leave before the ambulance arrived so no one would question them later. Another worker nodded quickly, already planning how to explain that they had never even entered the room that morning. The maid heard their selfish plans and shook her head in disbelief, realizing money had poisoned the hearts of many people here. She gently wiped the dust from the billionaire's face and spoke kindly, telling him he deserved better than this cold silence. Behind his closed eyes, the billionaire felt every word like a heavy weight pressing against his conscience. He had spent years rewarding performance, power, and profits, believing loyalty could be purchased with bonuses. But lying there now, pretending to be dead, he saw the painful truth that money had never bought real humanity. The maid suddenly looked toward the door again and shouted loudly for someone to bring water and a first aid kit quickly. Her voice carried strength and urgency, forcing even the frightened employees in the hallway to stop whispering. And in that powerful moment, the billionaire silently realized that the quiet maid possessed more courage than his entire company combined. The maid refused to leave his side, gently holding his hand as if the warmth of human care alone might guide him back from the silence. Outside the office, employees shifted nervously, some still whispering that getting involved might destroy their careers. The sound of a distant ambulance siren finally echoed through the mansion gates, bringing a wave of tense relief. But before the medics could arrive, something unexpected happened inside the office that froze everyone in place. The billionaire's fingers moved slightly in the maid's trembling hand, a small motion that no camera could miss. Her eyes widened with shock and hope as she leaned closer, calling his name again with urgency. Then, slowly, the billionaire opened his eyes and looked directly at the maid who had refused to abandon him. Gasps exploded in the hallway as employees realized their powerful boss had just returned to life. Confusion spread across their faces as they rushed into the office, unsure whether to celebrate or panic. The billionaire slowly sat up, his calm eyes scanning every worker who had watched instead of helping. But his gaze stopped on the maid, the only person whose loyalty had not been tested by fear or money. And when he finally spoke, the quiet words that left his mouth would change the future of everyone in that room. The room fell into complete silence as the billionaire slowly rose from the cold marble floor, brushing dust from his expensive suit, while stunned employees stared at him as if the impossible had just happened. Fear immediately spread across their faces because they suddenly realized that every selfish whisper, every excuse, and every cowardly decision had been heard clearly by the man they worked for. The billionaire calmly looked around the office, his slow gaze stopping on each employee who had chosen fear, silence, and personal safety instead of showing the simplest form of human kindness. Small hidden cameras blinked quietly from the walls, and in that moment, everyone finally understood that the shocking scene unfolding before them had been a carefully planned test. One nervous employee stepped forward, trying desperately to explain that they were only confused and frightened by the situation, but the billionaire quietly raised his hand and stopped him. His voice was calm, but carried a deep weight as he admitted that money had built this mansion, this powerful company, and the comfortable lives many people in that room enjoyed. But today he had discovered a painful truth, that wealth had also built invisible walls between people's hearts, slowly replacing compassion with fear, silence, and selfish thinking. He then slowly turned toward the maid, the only person who had rushed to his side without hesitation, without calculation, and without worrying about consequences. Her eyes were still filled with tears as she stepped back respectfully, completely confused about why the most powerful man in the room was now looking at her with deep gratitude. The billionaire's voice softened as he explained that she was the only person in the entire building who had remembered he was still a human being, not just a powerful employer. He admitted with quiet honesty that the richest man in the room had just been protected and cared for by the poorest employee working inside the mansion. Then he looked at every employee standing there and revealed that the decision he was about to announce would change the future of the entire company forever. The billionaire slowly walked across the silent office, his steady footsteps echoing through the room where fear, shame, and quiet regret now filled every corner. Employees lowered their eyes one by one, realizing that the test they had just failed was never about business decisions, but about humanity, courage, and moral responsibility. He stopped in front of the maid, who stood nervously with her hands folded together, still confused why the most powerful man in the building was now facing her. With a calm and gentle voice, the billionaire thanked her for staying beside him when everyone else stepped back in fear, choosing safety and silence over compassion. He admitted openly that in his entire company, filled with powerful managers and educated professionals. She was the only person who chose humanity. Then he slowly turned toward the other employees and quietly announced that true loyalty could never be measured by titles, salaries, or positions. From that moment forward, he declared that the maid would no longer continue working as a simple cleaner inside the mansion. Instead, she would become the official head of employee welfare, responsible for reminding every worker what real compassion and integrity look like. Shock spread through the room as employees realized the quiet woman they had ignored for years had now earned the deepest respect in the company. The billionaire then looked once more toward the hidden cameras and calmly said that today's lesson would remain recorded forever inside the company. Sometimes the strongest hearts are hidden behind the simplest uniforms, waiting patiently for the moment when truth finally reveals them. The story ends here, but the mystery lives on. Like, subscribe, and return for the next unforgettable journey.